as we begin to look at the art of Australia, we need to deal with bark painting. Now, bark is a great material for painting. In fact, it has many of the qualities that we would look for when artists move from wood panels and walls to canvas. After all, think about it. Compared to a fresco on a wall, a canvas is portable, it's easily moved, it's fairly light. And bark is the same way. Bark is going to be portable, it's going to be light. You might not be able to roll it up, but we're pretty close. It's really perfect for the nomadic Aboriginal societies that we see in Australia. And these paintings are meant to give visual form to the spirits the Aboriginal peoples believe surrounded them. So they're trying to depict these spirits around them. And they tend to take on animal-like forms. Now, these forms the Aboriginal artists could only depict a dreaming, so one of these visions, after having a connection or experience with it. So in other words, you can't create a bark painting of a dreaming of a fish if you haven't had a dreaming or one of these experiences with a fish. Dreaming being possibly a hallucinatory, possibly a state of ecstasy, possibly literally a dream where you're coming into contact with the spirit of this thing. So you have to come into contact with that spirit through the dreaming in order to depict it. Therefore, clans or large family groups generally own designs. So if grandpa had a dreaming experience, again with the fish example, or a kiwi or some other creature, then your family can depict that creature. But if you haven't had, or your family hasn't had that experience, they can't do it. So they become associated with family and clan groups. And we're looking at a specific example here from the Western Arnhem Land around 1913. What you're looking at is the proper orientation. I'll show it to you differently in a minute. But the proper orientation of a bark painting of a monkey. And this is depicted in a style that we now refer to as X-ray. But obviously the Aboriginal peoples would not have referred to it as X-ray, as they had no concept of an X-ray to begin with. And we call it that because it simultaneously depicts internal and external features. It's a very interesting piece. Now here I'm just reorienting it to give you a little bit larger version. I apologize, non-Western art, sometimes you don't have the greatest images available. It's getting better, but slowly. We also see a fluid and dynamic quality. We get a sense of movement, not that the animal's moving, obviously it's probably not, but a sense of our eye moving across it, constantly moving from the feet up to the head and back down. Now, as we look at it, the joints seem to be a point of focus. We see these pin-like objects in the joints, and that would be associated with these spirit versions of the animals. We also see this very unusual form where we get the sense of hair, but it's more skeletal. It's as if we're looking at the skeleton of the creature, but it still has the hair on. It's kind of an interesting form. It's almost cubist. We're seeing two different characteristics of the same thing at the same time that we shouldn't. We should not see hair on a complete skeleton, generally speaking. So they're taking some interesting liberties with the depiction. This also tends to indicate that they're aware of the anatomy of these creatures. And that's not surprising. They're probably consuming these creatures. Now, we wouldn't think of monkeys as food, but if you're a hunter-gatherer society, it's a thing that runs around and it's edible. So they're going to eat it. Let's not forget, the Aztec will raise dogs as food. We see other societies where animals that we now consider pets, such as guinea pigs, are being eaten, such as in South America. So, just something to consider. This is outside of our tradition, but yet It's not that far outside. We do see a lot of Western artists who will depict, especially in the medieval period, images of states of religious ecstasy, visions. So they have a vision of, for example, the Virgin Mary, and they will depict that vision. It's not that different here. The Aboriginals are simply depicting their vision of these animal spirits.